Samantha, are you there too?
I am.
Hey, thanks for everything during this process. You're awesome.
Thank you.
This was by far the smoothest I think the ACAP applications have ever been. Like, it was just a very smooth process. So I really appreciated it.
Slowly getting better at it. Every year gets that much. Yeah, I think we keep trying, like, in all the feedback, we try to get a little bit better each time. So, all right, we are live and we're still waiting for quorum. So, lots of stuff is happening this weekend, though. Tomorrow is a busy night. I think Festival of Trees launches off, the tree lighting, ABBA's at the Community Theater Center. Oh, so yeah, tomorrow night's a busy night.
Wow.
Hi, Larry.
Hi, Larry. Oh, wonderful. Let's go. Well, let's get the show on the road then. Welcome, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm happy to be joining you from the Civic Center, and for our first, well, I guess this is because it's our first hybrid meeting for ACAP. Second.
Yes.
Okay. So let's call our meeting to order at 4:32 p.m. for Wednesday, November 16th. First item on our agenda is the adoption of the minutes. So if you could look in your agenda package, you should be able to scroll down and find the minutes from our Wednesday, September 21st meeting. Could I have a mover for the minutes? Moved by Larry, seconded by Miranda. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Any items that need revision or anything of that nature? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of adoption of the minutes, please remain silent. Anybody abstaining or opposed, please indicate so in the chat or raise your hand using the emotion or the reactions. And the motion carries. The next item is a declaration of any pecuniary interests. So we'll go with this with first come, first served basis. I guess I'll declare I have a conflict in relation to application 5.4.10 on our agenda. Donna, I see you raised your hand.
I have a conflict in general on the applications for the assistance program, as I'm an employee of one of the participating organizations each year.
Duly noted. Any other, Heather, and then Miranda. Heather?
I personally feel like I have a conflict on 5.4.7. So I'm just filling out that note.
And Miranda.
I've got conflicts with 5.4.9 and 5.4.10.
Very good. Any other declarations of pecuniary interest? Very well. We'll move on to our next item, which is the adoption of the agenda. I believe there was an addition to make.
Yeah, so I was hoping to add Pall Mall Alley onto the agenda. So we can add it as agenda item 4.3.
Amending the agenda, 4.3, Pall Mall Alley. All right, can I have a mover to accept the adoption of the agenda as amended? Moved by Heather, seconded by Miranda. All those, or any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please remain silent. Anybody abstaining or opposed, please open the chat to express your intent or use your reactions. And the motion carries. Next, we have item number 4, Business Arising. Item 4.1, Public Art Funding, Plaza Indigenous Screen. We had a couple of initial discussions related to this item over our last two meetings. There were questions raised the first time that we brought it to, first time it was brought to the committee, related to aspects of the engagement process and general funding provisions for the Indigenous screen at the plaza. Those were answered at our previous meeting, but we lost quorum before any further discussion could take place. So we are back. I don't know if I see that Tom Bear is joining us today. I don't know if either you or Virginia would like to start us off with just a recap of the item for discussion.
Sure, maybe I can start. Virginia, you feel free to jump in. Yeah, if people recall, we were looking for support, $40,000 towards the Indigenous screen within the downtown plaza. This obviously it's a major focal point for downtown revitalization, and I think the community and the going forward. The metal screen was designed with the Indigenous design practice, Brooke McElroy, and as Sean, you indicated, we had extensive consultation with the Indigenous communities. The last conversation we had, I know we talked a bit about the impact to the public art budget and looking at doing a strategy. So since that last conversation, we've been doing some work as a team to look at the public art strategy and what we think we can do, still supporting the Indigenous screen in the plaza, but also setting us up for the public art moving forward in Sault Ste. Marie. So Virginia, maybe I'll turn it over to you and you can just describe some of the research and the work you've done and kind of the go forward plan there.
So what I did was I took a review of some different public art master plans. So I reviewed Hamilton, Halton Hills as two of the main ones to see the different sections and components that they included when they developed their plan. Then I took a look at what we've kind of have done through various documents and compared those. So a number of the sections that are included in the plan, which include kind of the background, the purpose of public art, our vision and guiding principles for public art, how you acquire it, how we maintain it. Those we've all included up to date in the public art policy that we completed last year. So a number of those sections do cross over. Last spring as well, we worked on completing a public art inventory. So taking all the public art, whether it was city owned or also maybe owned by the art gallery, OFRI, different places in the community, and started to track those in a document. That's also a component of a lot of these documents, is mapping out what you have currently. So we have the database done. The next step that we have to do internally is actually take that and map it out and kind of divide it into sections of town, which we believe we can complete that in-house with help from our planning department. The piece that we're missing is really looking at getting a public consultation piece. And we think that we'd like to have somebody assist with that. So bring somebody in for that component so that we get that engagement, one-on-one interviews, and kind of have that lens to help us set kind of the vision for public art in Sault Ste. Marie, whether there's themes or things that we need to take into consideration and get support for that component. And then we also think that in-house, we can take all the areas and map them out. We have a number of plans that have been completed. Queen Street, for example, is one of them, where they've actually identified locations for future public art as we do that redevelopment. So taking that work plus work that we can complete in-house and then providing a map of possible locations and the size of pieces that could go on those locations. So we think there's a lot that can be done, and we can probably get off the ground and start prepping a lot of that initially. And then funding, we have some operational money for consultants, which we could take advantage of within our recreation and culture budget to get some assistance on the public consultation piece and visioning. I think that covers it.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Virginia. And I think, so in a way to summarize, we feel that there's opportunity for the CVC to support the Indigenous screen in the downtown plaza, which is going to be a marquee project, a critical project. As well, we've got a platform and funding that'll allow us to enable the public art strategy to move forward and future public art to be implemented in the downtown. We've also talked with Travis Anderson, Director of Tourism Community Development, and we're also seeing if there's a way that tourism, because they're very keen on downtown activation, might be able to also contribute to public art in the downtown moving forward. So I think there's a positive outcome here across the board, and we would appreciate the support to allow us to move forward with the Indigenous Screen project.
Thank you very much, Tom and Virginia. Opening the floor to discussion. Donna, I see your hand.
Thank you, Sean. Could you remind me, please, if I'm remembering my numbers correctly, we had, was it $56,000 remaining in our budget because of some carryover possibly from a previous year? So if we do approve the $40,000 to go towards the screen in the plaza, does that leave us with any funds from 2022 to be carried forward for public art going forward?
Yes, so we only spent 24,000 of our previous allocation, which left 16,000 remaining. And we have the 40,000 from this year's or next year's allocation. So we will have some funds to move forward. One of the projects hasn't been fully spent as well either. So we may have some funds that we can return back to the public art pot through the traffic wrap program.
Okay, so can we back up for a second? Because I don't remember this part, but it's possible I'm not remembering properly. So the $40,000 we'd be approving is approving 2023's budget for public art to go towards this piece in the plaza. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it would be the 40,000 there. We have 16,000 carry this year right now. So we would be doing now I'm getting my years, double checking my years.
Because I thought the 40, I thought we had.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're right, Donna. I think I'm getting my years mixed up on because we received in 2020 and 2021, right, Tom? 2020 was our first year.
Right. Yeah. And that was my understanding, Virginia. We're spending 2022 money, and you will have 40,000 next year in 2023 to spend towards other initiatives.
The years have gone by fast.
Oh, okay, that's great. That makes me feel better. So thank you for the work there, Virginia, on looking at how we could undertake this idea of a community vision for public art and accomplish the public consultation that's certainly required as part of that. You did mention about moving ahead on it. Could you speak to the timelines under which you think that this could happen? And is it conceivable that having $56,000 available to spend in 2023, we could be looking at some significant installations or work to be done on not just the plan, but actually beginning the implementation of the plan next year?
Oh, and just before you answer that, Virginia, I just wanted to acknowledge, I see Larry's hand. I just want everybody to know that I am keeping a speakers list. So after we get the response from Virginia, we'll go to Larry and then proceed with, were you raising your hand as well, Heather? No, okay, sorry. Sorry, Virginia, go ahead.
No problem. I think it's something that we can start writing, but I think we can start to look at doing a call because we do have a process for call to artists. So that's, and the larger calls do take quite a bit of time. So it is a year-long process from when I've been looking at the different calls that are out there for major installations. So if we did put a call out, say partway into the spring, once we've identified a location and we have kind of, have an idea of what we want or leave it open, that call would go out and it could end up in a fall installation, depending on the scale of the project, or it may end up being a 2024 installation, depending on how much time the artist actually needs to do that type of work and product, right? Some of the calls are actually year long from the point you make the call to the final product of the installation, depending on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah, I guess, as you know, I am really anxious to move these things along so that we have a vision and we have a plan, and that we can get some multi-year funding in place to be able to be acting on this ahead of time so that we can see some visual differences in getting art installed. So maybe there is a way, if we think about it, that we could push forward on a call in the early part of next year, without, I guess, ignoring public or along at the same time with public consultation. I don't know what that would be, but I would just hate to see us not make some difference happen in 2023. At $56,000 is really not a lot of money. It's lovely to have, don't get me wrong, but we're not going to be doing any massive type of public art installation with that kind of money. So maybe we can get creative about how we could get moving on something. And then I'm just going to stop talking now. Thank you.
And I do think, and Tom, I'll let you speak up, but I do think internally from a staff perspective, we would love to see a call out and try to get something done, within the next year. Again, depending on the process, but I know, and Tom had mentioned tourism. I do think that that's something that they're potentially interested in. So I do think there's definitely opportunity to try to do a call out sometime in the first quarter, early second quarter of next year. Tom, do you?
Sorry, getting off mute. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that is something we can achieve.
Thank you. We'll go to Larry and then any other further discussion. Oh, Larry, you're currently on mute, just so you know.
Two things. I strongly agree with Donna that we should try to move this forward as fast as we can, so that once the project is coming together all at once, that is the larger project. And I think it's just easier for us to keep our minds around it too. Secondly, you who are in the Civic Center, I don't know about others on the call here, but your audio is not really good. You're almost sounding like you're underwater or something. I'm not talking about Tom. Tom's is very clear.
Oh, well, thank you for pointing that out, Larry. I don't know if there's, where is the mic? Is it built into this? Oh, it's down.
I don't know if that's it. I don't know where IT has it hidden.
Okay.
We'll make sure we're speaking up louder. Is that better, Larry?
I think a little better. I mean, it's not good sound, and at times it was difficult to understand you.
Okay, sorry.
Well, but thank you for bringing that to our attention, Larry. And we'll try to be clearer and make sure we don't engage in any crosstalk to avoid any potential future confusion. All right, any other comments or discussion? Heather.
I just want to say thank you for clarifying the budget and the carryover, because that was one of my questions and you answered it. So thank you.
Thank you, Heather. If there's no other discussion, I'll put myself there just to pose a question, which is, do you need volunteers from committee members for crafting a call?
Yes, I will need volunteers, but I think we have to wait till the new appointments are done.
Right.
And look for volunteers starting in January when we meet as a committee for the first time again.
Good point, which is also another plug, a little reminder for folks to get your applications in. Larry,
I think we should volunteer Jasmine. I'm serious.
oh, no, the only reason I'm laughing is just because she's not here. But I take your point that Yasmina would be a phenomenal addition.
I'm quite sure she would say yes. So I would tentatively put her in there. And if she wants to back out, let her back out. But it moves us ahead.
Absolutely. A really good item, definitely a really great suggestion to consider for January. Any other further discussion on the Indigenous screen at the plaza? Seeing none. So the motion before us is to approve $40,000 from our allocation of the public art budget to go towards the Indigenous screen project of the downtown plaza. Larry, are you moving? You have a question?
No, I had a question. This doesn't affect the public installations we were considering for the new twin pad in the West End, does it?
No, it does not. That's separate funding.
I thought that was so, but I thought I better ask it. Thank you.
Very good point, Larry. Thank you very much. Miranda, is that a question or a move it?
It's neither. It's a comment. I see Jordan has posted something in the chat box, and I just don't want us to move on without having a chance to share it, because it sounds like he might be in a situation where he can't speak what he's thinking. So just very quickly, Jordan says, I'm currently in Dr. Jody Rebecca's strategies class at AU, and our topic this year is winter tourism. I'm wondering if we could potentially explore an art-based project for the class's final project next year. So maybe also something to put on the radar for later.
That's a really great point, Jordan. And that also with the new City Studio collaborations that exist between Algoma University and the city of Sault Ste. Marie, I think there's a lot of potential with that.
We had Dr. Rebeck do a consultation with us. She had a class, as a matter of fact, while she was working at Lake State for the Community Theater Center, and she did a very good job. I thought she was good.
Fantastic, thank you. It's always nice to hear about your colleagues. Any other further discussion, or would somebody like to move the motion?
I second it.
I'll put Larry down as a seconder. Oh, Donna, are you moving or posing a question?
I'll move it.
Moved by Donna, seconded by Larry. All those in favor, well, sorry, discussion on the motion. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please remain silent. Anybody abstaining or opposed, please indicate so in the chat or open your mic to express your intent. And by the sounds of it, the motion carries. So thank you, everybody, for that. The next item on the agenda is item 4.2, the Community Recognition Award. And I'll pass it over to Virginia for an update there.
So it's been a while since we had the closed meeting where we talked about the applications. We went through the process, and we didn't get as far last meeting to pass the resolution, but we now do have to pass the resolution and open with the recommendations for the 2022 Cultural Community Recognition Award. So the resolution would be resolved that the Cultural Vitality Committee recommend that Wabano Head Start Family Resource Center and the Northern Ontario Latin Hispanic Associations be awarded as the recipients of the 2022 Community Recognition Award.
Do I have a mover for the resolution? Moved by Larry, seconded by Miranda. All those, any discussion on the resolution? Sorry if I sound like I'm shouting at you. I'm just trying to make sure that my voice is caught clearly. All right, I don't see any further discussion, so we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please remain silent. Anybody abstaining or opposed, please indicate so in the chat or open your mic to express your intent. And the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the Pall Mall Alley. Thank you very much. Over to Virginia.
Sorry, Sean, just before you go, I have to sign off, but I was mainly here for the public art discussion. So thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it. And thanks for your support on that project.
Thanks, Tom. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So Pall Mall Alley, if everybody remembers, we have cases in Pall Mall Alley where we have an opportunity to display local artists, and they submit their artwork, and we make a selection based on the submissions. So we should have done it in the summer, but it was a little chaotic. So we did a call to artists. How many were buying by the end of the day?
By 4:15 today, it closed at 4:30. We had 25 submissions, and then in the last 15, some trickled through. So we got to check the timing of those emails to see if they made the deadline or not. So we have at least 25.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we are looking for 1 to 2 members that might be interested in helping review the submissions and make a recommendation on which ones we would proceed with displaying in the alley this year. The artists do get paid for the display, so they get paid $50 a month and will be displayed for the 2023 entire year.
That's great. So open call for volunteers on judging the applications. Or judging sounds hard.
The reviewing, yeah.
Reviewing the applications. Miranda, is that a volunteer or are you asking a question?
Question, what's the timeline on the assessment process?
I'm hoping to have them done within the next 3 weeks or so to a month. That way we can get them over to printing and start the installation in January. Is kind of what we're hoping for. I also did let the members that weren't in attendance tonight know that we'd be looking at seeing if they may be interested. Jasmina did express interest as well, but hopefully we have 2 members that have an opportunity to review the art.
So we have Yasmina as a volunteer so far. Is there anybody else who would like to volunteer? Okay, well, we don't.
I'll help you. I'll help you.
Long enough.
I think it would be very interesting, but I can't volunteer over the next month.
Okay.
Fair enough. And thank you, Larry, for considering it, though. It's, and thank you to Yasmina and Miranda in advance for that contribution.
So I do have a resolution.
Oh,
Yeah,
wonderful.
so it would be resolved that the Cultural Vitality Committee appoint Yasmina and Miranda to assist in the review of the Pall Mall Alley submissions.
Do I have a mover for the resolution? Moved by Heather, seconded by, I think Donna just beat you, Larry. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Anybody, all those in favor, please remain.
I did have a question.
Sure.
How is the alley treating the art? Have we been having vandalism of any kind? Is it being respected by the public?
Yeah, we haven't touched wood. Everything's been going really, really well. It's been well received. We've had positive comments. We do have some anti-graffiti stuff that's there. We did do murals behind because there was some tagging previously on the wall behind. But we've tried to do kind of a mural behind there just with color blocking and pattern, just to try to have that kind of pop of color and hopefully deter anybody from tagging the wall.
The only thing that I noticed from walking through the alley was that one of the explanatory panels was removed, but then I think it was fixed.
We try
But nothing to the art. The art was, yeah.
And we do try to stay on top of it if there is any potential issues, but I haven't had any phone calls or was aware of any time when anybody did anything to the cases. They are behind a glass, like behind a case, the pieces of art, and they're printed on like a panel. So it's not the actual piece of art that they submit that could get damaged. It's actually printed on a weatherproof panel, an imagery of the art they submit. So, and then our sign shop works with the artist to get the quality of the photo and make sure everything's done based on those submissions.
It's a really interesting process, and it's much more involved than I had imagined. So thanks, of course, go to all the staff involved in making that happen. Any other questions or comments? Did we vote on the resolution?
I don't think so.
Okay, everybody in favor, please remain silent. Anybody abstaining or opposed, please indicate so in the chat or open your mic to express your intent. And the motion carries. Congratulations, Yasmina and Miranda. Thank you very much, both of you. Next item on the agenda is our Arts and Culture Assistance Program grant. So the first item under this is a brief overview of the policy and the process for the review. Next, following that process, we'll do a disclosure of the distribution of funding across different streams. We'll move on to the determination of the funding thresholds, and then we'll review the application. So you can see the applications are numbered under section 5.4. All of those subdivisions are unique applications under review. Following that, we will review the final scores and get to our funding recommendations. We are clinging on to quorum with one person. So if we do get to the point where we lose quorum, or if collectively you decide it's time to have a break, then we can reconvene. There was an expectation that we likely would not complete the process today. So a doodle poll has gone out with some dates for, is it next week?
Next week and the week after.
Thank you, Sam. Next week and the week after. So remember, please do respond to that doodle poll so that we can schedule that alternative or the additional meeting to complete the review process. So what I will, Larry.
I can stay an extra 10 minutes, but then I have something to do at 6 o'clock and I have to get there. So I'm sorry, but that might affect your quorum.
Larry, there's no need to apologize. Thank you for bringing it up, though. And I think, you know, the, what was it, 5:35 or so is probably a decent amount of time that we should dedicate. So thank you very much for being willing. And for anybody else, if you have to leave early too, don't feel like we're like everything's riding on you. I mean, I know that I did just say that we're clinging on the quorum, but we're planning another meeting so that we can complete the process. All right, so just to review our process. As you saw from the document that was distributed, all committee members wishing to participate in the assessment of submissions to the Arts and Culture Assistance Program are expected to review submissions prior to the meeting when the applications are scheduled to be assessed. Members score each submission prior to the assessment meeting and submit their scores to the Arts and Culture Lead to be recorded and averaged with the scores of the other assessors. Scores should be received, well, we don't need to worry too much about that. What's done is done. Where members have questions about applications, they should have gone to Sam in this case ahead of time, just to make sure that they can be, we can have direct contact with the applicant to clarify some of those things. That doesn't mean that that we can't pose questions in our session about the applications. It just means that we can't necessarily get answers, because we want to make sure that if there are questions about the completeness of an application, that we can check in with Sam to see if there are any conditions around that. Perhaps there's a situation where we have to exclude a grant from consideration because it is incomplete, or we don't feel that it's sufficiently complete for us to assess. Otherwise, we rely on the guidance of staff and their interactions with the applicant. So the deliberations on the assessment of applications take place in an open meeting of the Cultural Vitality Committee for our requirements under the Municipal Act of Ontario. Committee members will take turns leading the discussion on each application, consisting of an overall summary of the application and any questions or comments they had in relation to the application. Then the remaining committee members will take turns sharing any additional comments related to the application. At that point, once everybody has had their thoughts and comments addressed, we move on to the next application. So the committee will be driven by the principle that the proportion of funding recommended is dependent on the scores received by the application, and that priority will be given to the highest scored applications. So applications need to receive a minimum score above 50% of their potential marks to be recommended for funding. So any application that scores on average below 7.5 will automatically be excluded from consideration of for funding this year and future years, for as long as this process applies. However, receiving a score above 50% does not guarantee an application will be funded, as the funds will be recommended for distribution beginning from the top scoring application onwards down. And we have the ability to add additional thresholds if we feel like 50% is too low. It can be raised, or there can be additional thresholds that are added, and that will happen under item 5.3, so momentarily. Reminder as well that of the total funds that we have available for distribution, 75% of them are available for this fall intake, and the remaining 25% plus anything that is unspent in this intake will be applied to the winter intake. So any funds, that's that. Members, of course, can recuse themselves from discussion of any application where they have a conflict of interest, as outlined in our policy, or if for some other reason they feel like they cannot or should not be assessing a given application. So it is at the members' discretion. We've had the declarations of pecuniary interest already. If some emerge, please just make sure that you declare before the application is being discussed. If it occurs to you in the middle of a discussion, still say so. We'll move you on over into the breakout room so that you're separated from our discussion. And at minimum, we need 3 reviewers to evaluate any given application. So that's our overview of the process. Now, one thing that I wanted to discuss in relation to this is the question of late applications. Under our policy, it does stipulate that late applications won't be considered in that particular round of funding. However, we did still receive a late application this time, and it is, I pose it to the members of the committee now, whether that should be excluded from consideration in this round per our previously stated procedures, or if there's rationale for inclusion in this round of considerations. Are there any discussions on that point? Opinions? Donna?
I'll give an opinion. Late is late, period. End of discussion. If there's a deadline, then the deadline has to be met. Otherwise, it's not fair.
Duly noted. Thank you very much. Any other comments? I saw some head nodding. Miranda?
I agree with Donna's position on this. I feel like we've got policies in place that need to be enforced.
Thank you very much. Any other thoughts, or does that pretty much cover it? Sounds like it pretty much covers it. So with that, I think it's safer. I don't know if we need a resolution. I think we just, we won't include that in the assessment this year.
No, I think, I agree. My concern is it becomes a slippery slope. You know, if it's not met by the deadline, then how late is too late? And, you know, that's why we have the cutoffs there, is so that it's fair and equitable.
Good point. Oh, I do see there's an item in the chat. Heather, oh, sorry, never mind. Heather is back. There we go. Oh, right. Now we'll move on to the disclosure of distribution of funding across streams. Sam, I believe you have this information.
Oh,
Or is this Virginia? Sorry. I think so.
okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Donna, did you want me to put you into the breakout room?
No, I'm not. I was just, if there's anything else you'd like me to participate in, I'm happy to do that, but I'm not going to participate in any of the conversations on any of the grants. I feel most comfortable that I don't do that because of my relationship to the Fall Festival. So I'm here as long as you need me, but once you start talking about those other things, I'll excuse myself.
Let's put you in the breakout room, as we'll need your hypothetical presence for quorum.
Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're in the breakout room, and because we're gonna be ending at Larry, you have to leave at 5:30, 5:35 around then, is that correct? So we'll pop you back in just at the very end. So I'll just message you if that's easy or.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. No problem. I'm listening. I'm watching. Okay.
Thank you.
Larry, I see you have a hand.
If we get put into a breakout room and we have submitted scores, are our scores in the breakout room or do they remain in the average?
Generally, you wouldn't have submitted scores for an application that you've declared a conflict on.
Yeah.
And that is something that Sam would have flagged for you in advance.
So that's been checked.
That has been checked, that's correct. And then we'll pop you in the breakout room. Once the discussion's done, we'll bring you back from the breakout room. Okay.
Great. So on your screen now, you can see the averaging of the scores that have been identified. And a note of who's declared a conflict, and then at the very far right-hand column, you can see the classification based on the different streams. Most of our applications fell into the large program grant or the small program grant, with a few others. Now, there were some variations based on some of the stipulations of some of the streams versus what was requested. So I'll turn it over to Virginia to highlight any cases where the amount requested exceeded what they were eligible for. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. So we went through each of the applications, looking at the funding request and then the maximum amount for each of those pots. So for example, if we go down to Glen Oak Academy, they requested large project grant funding and the amount of 20,000, but the maximum amount that we would give for that project is 75% of the total, which we've already calculated over on the side to identify the maximum amount. In the case of Fringe North, it was a little more complicated because they asked for funding from a couple of pots. So we did those allocations and the amount came out to 23,750. Sheet 2, yeah. So we also have another sheet, which can you see a sheet that has less columns right now? And it's broken in by the type of grant. Can everybody see that okay? It has organization name at the top, requested funding, max allowed, and recommended funding.
Yeah, if somebody could open your mic to say something because we can't see your faces anymore, just briefly.
Oh, I can see it.
see
Heather.
it.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Make sure we're talking about the same form. So what we did in this case was you'll see Fringe North is under festival and events for 5,000, but they also requested some project funding where we made the allocation based off of that, which was in 75% down to, so it went from 5,000 down to 3,750. So that's how we came up with those allocations. And then just did the maximum. Another example was the drawing club. So those were for grants under 2,999 and under. They did check off small project grant in their application, but put the 3,000. So we just made a little adjustment to make sure that it met the criteria as outlined in the guidelines.
Oh, I see one small error with the club. We've actually changed that to 299. It should be 10.
There you go.
And then
they were
Roswell
small.
goes after that 10, and that should be 299. Those were flipped.
Which one? Sorry.
Right above it.
The-
One more.
Oh, yes.
That should be 299.9 because that's wrapped.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
There we go.
Can I request another adjustment? Not to a monetary amount, but to a conflict notation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just to say, my conflict is not with number 8, but it's with number 9.
I think that just came over when we,
Yeah,
Yeah.
those two got flipped.
yeah, sorry about that, Brenda. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for adjusting.
Your numbers turned around a little. There you go. All right, we're all good now.
Wonderful.
So yeah, so that's how we got to those numbers.
Thank you very much for the overview. So we have some adjustment already. You can see that that brings our total down from a total request of 111,000 to the eligible potential 96,000. And we only have 78,300 to disperse. Are there any questions about the distributions or the adjustments? And if you do have a question, you'll have to just open your mic and take the chance that you're not speaking over something.
It's Heather. I don't have anything additional.
This is great. Thank you very much for doing all of this. This is very helpful.
The
Yeah.
So the next item on our agenda is 5.3, so the determination of funding thresholds. Based on the distribution of the average scores, we can see that one of the applications actually falls underneath our 7.5 threshold. So that is application 5.4.5 or Glen Oak Academy. So by our process, that will be removed from the adjudication. Now, so just bear with us while we make that adjustment. But while you're waiting, I also just wanted to note that I noticed there was at least one other application where, and this was also flagged for me, so thank you. I don't mean to take credit for that, but there was another application where financials were not provided. That was application 5.4.2, Cortina Canadians. I don't know if anybody spotted any others that had missing documentation. Missing in the sense of was required for the process, as opposed to, would have been nice, but wasn't required. Is there a way we can see
Yeah,
the?
sorry, I'm gonna see if I can change the view here.
Oh, that would be right. Oh, perfect. Okay. So now we can see your wonderful faces again. So I don't know if there was a reaction to that question I posed, but did anybody notice any other applications with missing documentation? And maybe, so we flagged Cortina Canadians. I want to check in with staff to see if there was any extenuating circumstances.
No, they originally submitted their application in a Word document. It wasn't on our pre-made application. We reached back out, asked them, can you please follow the guidelines and the application? And then what was submitted back was another Word document and a partially completed application. And then that was all they gave, and so that was it. So.
And the rules for incomplete applications, are they automatically excluded, or is this a decision of the committee?
It asks for a full and complete application for this particular grant stream, which is the large project grants, and being eligible for up to $20,000 under that pot. There are requirements. So previously we had, the smaller grants, we had them a little bit more flexible because it was a smaller pot of money. The larger grants, we were hoping those are the organizations that could provide, those details. Couple of the pieces in the large project grant is it does require, it must submit financial statements for the applying organization, and have an independent and volunteer board of directors that meets regularly and does not receive financial remuneration for the project. And then, so those were two of the pieces. So that's why we were trying to help them to make sure they filled out the application and, answered those questions within their, so it is a requirement under the large project stream for that dollar value, because it is a fairly significant grant.
I'm based on the information that you have received. Oh, Heather, please.
Oh, I just had a question. Did it matter whether it was incorporated or unincorporated? I didn't know if that had any bearing on that.
It's supposed to be an incorporated nonprofit arts and culture organization based in Sault Ste. Marie. If the organization is based outside the city, funding may still be granted, provided there's demonstrated substantial local benefit or involvement. So I think it's trying to bring it back. So if they are outside, it's fine, as long as there's some benefit to what's happening in Sault Ste. Marie.
So unincorporated are allowed to apply for the other streams, but not the large projects.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's small grants, you can be unincorporated.
Okay, can someone remind me, was Cortina Canadians incorporated or unincorporated? I can't remember, I'm sorry.
Unincorporated.
Thank you.
So based on that, is there any further discussion on the status of this application, whether it should be considered or not? I mean, from the guidance that we've received so far, I would err towards it being excluded, but I also want to entertain a case if people feel like it should be considered for a different interpretation of those rules, or yeah, any thoughts? I don't see anybody chomping at the bit to offer an alternative viewpoint, so I think the consensus seems to be here that this also is unfortunately outside of the criteria. Now, in both of these cases, I'm exercising a bit of, well, I'll just, hopefully people don't mind if I speak on behalf of the committee to say that, you know, it's not that these are not valuable projects. These are, you know, both of them I was very intrigued by. I think they brought a lot to the community, but unfortunately don't meet the criteria for our consideration today. And we strongly recommend they apply again in the future. Larry.
Ken, I'm sure this is history that Virginia may know, but why, maybe you too, Sean, why is it required to be a charitable corporation for large projects?
Not charitable.
Charitable, sorry, just incorporated in any way, is that it?
So a lot of the groups do get incorporated. And it's because of the volume of the funding that's potentially given out, right? So when we have.
What's that got to do with anything? You can screw up a corporation as much as an individual can.
It's related to the accountability measures that exist for incorporated entities.
I could argue that a corporation shields accountability.
Fair enough, but I think that in this case, this was on the expectation that the incorporated organizations, you know, have, you know, collective form of government and governance.
Well, I think in these cases, we're looking to see for those groups that also have a formal board of directors, right? So, you know, that gives some level of oversight to the projects. But, you know, when you're doling out up to 20,000, which is, you know, close to 20% of the funding that's available potentially, you know, you want to make sure that there is some type of oversight there as well. You know, the guidelines and where we got to this were worked on over several months, went through the committee, went through council to kind of get to this point and have those thresholds. And we also looked at best practices at other municipalities and places that were doing similar things to kind of get to this point. So.
Well, I raised my eyebrows because some of these groups are not, don't have a lot of money. And it means you got to have a lawyer and you got to have an accountant and you got to, you know, that's expensive.
So, and I understand that point as well. We do have numerous groups that do meet that threshold, right? But I do think, you know, especially in this case, there needs to be some type of financial documentation provided as well, right? Which was missing from the application.
Any other further comments on whether to include or exclude the application?
Just to say once again, if you know, we've got policies in place for a reason, and if something is against the policy or not compliant with the policy, then we've got to defer to the policy.
Yeah, I wasn't asking that the policy be changed, although rules are often made to be broken, aren't they? But I just was wondering why.
No doubt, no problem at all, Larry. I think that you do raise important points, and it's something for consideration in any policy review.
I
Absolutely.
mean, somebody trying to get a charitable corporation is going to go through hell. and it'll be it can be very expensive.
Right, it doesn't have to be a charitable corporation, it can be a non-charitable, not-for-profit. corporation.
And that gave me solace.
Very good. All right, so I take it that this application will be removed from the adjudication as well. That moves us to 5.4. We can probably squeeze in one application. I wonder, going on the order of faces that I see, Miranda, I wonder if you would like to lead our discussion on the Art Speaks project.
Yes, just let me find my unmute button and my notes. So just to say, to disclose, Thinking Rock Community Arts is named in here as a community partner, but we don't have a direct interest in this project. So I am not recusing myself from this discussion. To summarize, this application is in support of the Art for Wellness project. I noticed that Art Speaks maintains good project partnerships with Breton House, the Sioux Museum, and the Sioux Area Hospital Sexual Assault Center. This project really focuses on mindfulness through creative self-expression. It will support 100 hours of arts-based learning workshops taking place from January to December of 2023 for at-risk adults and youth age 16 plus. It's trauma-informed and arts-based in its approach. And the application mentions that it's not therapeutic or therapy, but it's based on self-expression and reflection using arts as a vehicle. It's free, it's accessible, it's consistently delivered programming that's building on a tradition of great programs that have been taking place through the pandemic. This is a source of outreach and programming in the community that is trusted and known. And I noticed reading the application that it's led by very qualified and dedicated folks who are not just committed to the form that they are practicing, but in many cases, they've been part of the cultural community and the social fabric of Sault Ste. Marie for a very long time. I felt like this application was very high quality, and that the activity report at the end was also very high quality. So passing it on to somebody else who maybe noticed different things or complementary things.
Thank you, Miranda. Next, we'll go to Larry.
I gave this as high a score as I gave anything, and I've been scoring a little bit on the skimpy side because we don't have much money, but a lot of money, that is. But I think it is therapeutic because it says to help foster greater resilience in individuals struggling with the impact of trauma due to addiction, sexual violence, and mental health challenges, developed by local visual artist therapist Maria Ilaria. Well, I think she's been doing it for years, and I think she's very good at what she does. And I agree that the application was written well, but I thought the real thrust of it was therapeutic, not artistic, but using art as a medium for achieving the therapeutic goals. And as I say, I think this has been happening. I think Maria's been doing this for quite a while. I raised the question because as I read on, there were other projects that did the same thing. And if we think that the thrust of an application is primarily therapeutic or some other object using art as a way to achieve it, I don't know whether that affects our views or not. So anyway, that's my only comment. Otherwise, I thought it was an excellent, it was a well-written application.
Thank you, Larry. Heather,
I don't know how much more I can add to that. And Miranda's. I thought this application was wonderfully written. I mean, I think art is therapeutic no matter what medium you do it. I think it just is for any person, whether you're a professional artist or just someone that does it. I think it just is. I think this group reaches people that maybe didn't even know they had artistic ability, or maybe that was something that was suppressed because of trauma or things like that. And they're bringing that out in people. And they can show them that, yeah, it can be therapeutic and help them, but it really shows them that there's an avenue for their art. And maybe people will, once they've gotten through what they need to get through, will find a profession in this. They'll move on and find something where they maybe go back to school and become graphic designer and illustrator, or become a local artist and participate. So I look at it as a great application. I think this is really honorable, and I really like this application.
thank you, Heather. And Jordan, any final comments? Larry,
Miranda's comment reminded me of one other thing I meant to bring up. I don't disagree that that the arts can have a therapeutic effect. But I think there's a difference between you doing it yourself and an organization doing it for the purpose of assisting with trauma-based issues. That being the case, though, it does not address the effectiveness. There's no comment in there about effectiveness. So while I gave it the highest score I gave anything, I did have those questions. I don't know how, whether they've done any. It's been going on for some years, I think, and I can assume that it's effective if Breton House remains involved, or it has a level of an acceptable level of efficacy. But I just raised the question. We don't know whether we plunk the money down, and we don't know what the effect is.
Miranda.
I'm just looking through the application because there's a specific part in the application, which is what I was mentioning, where I think it lays out that the effect of the art, I mean, it's called Art for Wellness, definitely has a therapeutic aspect, and I'm not disputing that, but there's a place in the application where it expressly says this is not therapy, and it is positioned as community arts related outreach. So just wanted to clarify my comment to that regard.
Thanks, Miranda. All right. So with that, does anybody want to adjust any scores, or are we satisfied?
I'm satisfied with what I submitted.
Very well.
Same.
So with that, maybe we'll come out of our discussion of the Arts and Culture Systems program, because I know that Larry, we don't want to hold you up too much. We know we have to get going. So we'll pause this discussion here, and we'll bring Donna back into the room. While we're waiting for that, again, I just want to assert for any applicants who are who are watching that if your application was removed, it's not for lack of its potential artistic merit. Please do reach out to staff so that so that you can get assistance with your applications. They're very approachable. They're very good at what they do. So don't hesitate to reach out.
I just wanted to thank staff for giving me a paper copy of all this. It makes it just so much easier to manipulate and make notes and reflect and, you know, without manipulating on screens and all that sort of thing. So thank you. I think, Virginia, you're the one that I asked for it, and it was very, very much appreciated.
Sam did all the hard work.
Thank you for that acknowledgement, though, Larry. All right, everybody's back. Thank you all so much for your time this evening. Do respond to that doodle poll about when to schedule our next meeting. And also, committee appointments are up. So please, each and every one of you, it's been such a pleasure serving with you. And I really hope that you all reapply for next year. I'll be reapplying. Although don't let that scare you off. I don't have to be chair. I really don't. Well, we'll certainly see you next week or the week after, depending on that poll. And otherwise, adjournment. We'll need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Larry, seconded by Heather. We vote on motions to adjourn?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please remain silent. Anybody abstaining or opposed, please indicate so in the chat or open your mic to express your intent. Motion carries.